today we're welcoming Dr. Sam Wilkinson. So thank you, sir, for being here.
The most important thing on a capture job is that no human gets hurt and then no animal gets hurt. One thing that a lot of people talk about is capture myopathy. Getting overheated is not capture myopathy.
Are you saying people will have animals get overheated and call it capture myopathy?
Well, capture myopathy becomes kind of a catch-all term when that animal is getting overheated. It is getting internally cooked and it cannot be uncooked. Just recognize that things are not going well. We just need to stop.
Right.
And we'll walk away, we'll regroup, we'll try again. One of the biggest misconceptions, I think we're just going to go around and just kill everything to kill it. It's like, no, we have good-hearted people that are involved in conservation. And are animals bought and sold? Yes. Do some of them go to hunting? Yes. Do some of them go to new ranches? Yes. There's always going to be people that say, hey, that animal belongs in Africa. Okay. I respect your opinion.
Before we start today's episode, I just wanted to ask everyone to subscribe to our channels. Again, the more people that like, subscribe, and comment, the better our analytics are and the better the guests we have. But a fun fact for you, only 38% of the people who actually watch or listen to the podcast are subscribed. So again, before we get started, if you wouldn't mind just clicking the little subscribe button, it would really help us out a ton. Thanks and enjoy today's episode. Welcome back to the Droptine Studios podcast. You may have seen him before on episode 7. If you haven't, go back and watch it. But today we're welcoming Dr. Sam Wilkinson. So thank you, sir, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, we tried planning this, and I think just your day-to-day is a little bit different than most. I guess for the viewers, kind of walk through, we planned on doing the podcast today, had to push it back a little bit. So what does that look like for you on a day-to-day?
Yeah, well, today there ended up being an issue with the bongo that I needed to deal with. And that happens a lot. I don't know how you want to think of it, fortunately, unfortunately. But it happens a lot where I have a certain plan and a certain way that I think things are going to go. And then all of a sudden I get thrown a, curveball.
Right. Yeah, that's what, we were just right before we were filming, we were talking about our wives are married to this business as much as us, but that's a pretty big factor into this industry is you can have sun up to sundown, minute by minute plan, but animals will, like you said, give you a curveball.
Well, and for many years, people didn't have the option to deal with those curveballs. They would just see it. They would sit there and observe it all the way until the bitter end. And now there are a handful of us with the skills and the ability and availability to be able to handle these kinds of issues now. So we're, it's still emerging, but now there are more of us that can handle these kinds of things. And people are calling because they see we can actually make a difference.
Right. Well, and that's the other part. If you don't follow him on Instagram, we'll put your plug at the bottom of the deal. But I've said it before, but I love your social media reels that you're putting out there just because I think bringing attention and bringing education to the public is a massive thing. And it's kind of what we're going to talk about today is like, how are we presenting ourselves in this industry to the public? But I just think the more things like this, hopefully this podcast, but also your social feed is going to bring hopefully a bright sunshine to our industry instead of the doom and gloom that seems to be around lately.
Well, and it's funny. I never thought that I would be, almost 40 years old posting clips and stuff, but I guess it really kind of started with me making videos for my kids because I wanted to show my kids the cool stuff that I do.
Right.
And, and then I would go places and people would be asking me, what I do and I'd show them. And anytime I say, well, I work with wildlife, they're like, oh, you pick up, the I don't know, raven or crow that fell or, help the squirrel. And it's like, no, not exactly.
Right.
And so then I just kind of started doing it. And then I just decided that I was going to keep sending out videos for fun.
Yeah, man. And some of them blow up.
Yeah. I've had a couple that hit pretty good.
Do you think that, because I've watched your videos, but I haven't really gone through the comments. Do you typically have a good reaction to it or do you ever get the naysayers?
Oh, well, so what I've noticed is if my videos seem to do best when I'm at about like 3,000 to 5,000 views. That seems to be like the highest quality audience. Once it gets into the hundreds of thousands or I don't have millions, but a handful over 1 million. You start getting some kind of odd
screwballs.
Yeah.
Yeah. They, and that's the thing that I tell my clients and stuff is, especially when they're paying us to get views. I'm like, well, we can't control who sees it unless we're paying for it. But also, like, 3,000 people to 5,000, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so being able to have that and the right audience, but yeah, it is also a social media trick because the algorithm doesn't know who's commenting or what they're commenting. They just see the interaction. So even bad comments sometimes for the algorithm are good. But
well, one thing that a lot of people with social media profiles do is, or presences do, is they'll try and get that first 3 seconds hot, and what I have done is to make that normal, as in not attractive, because that for me attracts the wrong people. Because people, like, I posted one about a raccoon one time, and it got a bunch of views, and it didn't get like bad press because it wasn't a bad thing. I was helping a raccoon, but I noticed, I was like, I did that like 3-second bit, and I got way more views, and and then they start getting like the feel good type stuff, and I was like, no, I'm like genuinely trying to help the people that I work with. I want to teach them things, and so. I'm not just trying to put out feel good stuff. I'm trying to genuinely help people with stuff and, medical conditions. And so, I stopped doing that, and I just focus on the important content rather than trying to get that first 3-second hit.
Right. Yeah. Cause that's the other thing is people are so stuck on views, which is good. I guess, depending on what your objective is, right? Like if your objective is to get millions of views, trying to push an agenda, whether it is education or not, is fine. But I think your new content, if it goes out there and the way you do your voiceovers, explaining what's happening and everything, is done very well, in my opinion.
Thank you.
But that would be my question. Like, here is, people have a misconception of owning exotic wildlife. And so what do you think the misconceptions are that people that want to own wildlife, whether they're new, getting into ranching, or already own exotics, but they're still fairly new?
Okay. Also in the discussion, I think, excuse me, oof, cut that one out. Also in the discussion, I think it's important to recognize the misconceptions that people have about what we do, even if they're not involved. One thing that I find very commonly is they think that we just walk around with guns in Texas and shoot everything we see. If there's an animal, we just kill it, and we don't value life. We don't value our land and our resources, and we just buy a GEMS box so we can go and massacre it.
Right.
And that is absolutely not the truth. The people that I work with are loving, caring people. They spend a lot of their time and effort and resources into creating safe and productive environments for these animals. And I'm not talking about, putting them in these small crates and raising them like veal. I mean, I'm talking about spending immense amount of resources to have very large acreage and providing these animals with food and good food, high quality food, and good clean water, and getting them treated when they have medical issues. And, are there animals that are involved in hunting? Yes, absolutely. Hunting is a vital part of this, but that's not the only part of it. There are a lot of other aspects as well, and different people do it for different reasons. But I find that to be one of the biggest misconceptions. I think we're just going to go around and just kill everything to kill it. It's like, no, we have good-hearted people that are involved in conservation. And are animals bought and sold? Yes. Do some of them go to hunting? Yes. Do some of them go to new ranches? Yes. Are some of them to be able to improve genetics and make something be the best version that it can be? Yes.
Right.
And there's always going to be people that have a problem with that. There's always going to be people that say, hey, that animal belongs in Africa. Okay. I respect your opinion.
Right.
That's not what I'm going to do, but I respect it. You are more than welcome to feel that way.
Yeah. This is America. Like, you can have that wrong opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speak it up. That's great.
Yeah. Cause I think even the people who don't like the hunting aspect, is if they could even see the finance side of it, is you're going, okay, well, this animal was harvested. Well, what's done with that money? So if that money can be put back into another female to be bred, to have offspring, to have more. So it sounds counterproductive, but you're taking a life to produce more life. And that's where the breeders come in.
Yeah. And let's not get too far away from where we are in this world. I mean, as human beings, we eat meat.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. It is okay. Now, I'm not saying be inhumane about it. Be humane, be a good shot, but there's nothing wrong with that. So you don't ever need to feel ashamed for that.
Right.
And but yeah, like we were talking about, I feel like a lot of people think that owning these animals is just so outlandish and so crazy. But the reality is people are discovering that, that you can have very prosperous herds. You can have a lot of fun. It has gotten a lot of people that never would have gotten into the agriculture industry to start participating. So what does that do? It creates all kinds of jobs, from ranch manager positions to the construction to the people that deal with, fencing and road upkeep and ranch hands and all of the different support. Excuse me. Man, this cough's rough. But the people that support the ranch and the heavy equipment dealers, the fuel, the list goes on.
Right.
To all of the different aspects that this touches, and doing this has gotten, like I was saying, a lot of people that never would have gotten to say the traditional cattle industry or traditional domestic farm animal industry, doing this kind of farming and ranching.
Oh, for sure. Especially like we've talked about it frequently on here, but there's that alternative livestock that you're talking about as people are doing the math going, what can I run per cattle, per head, per acre? And they're looking at it going, man, I could do more per acre with exotics. Oh. But to kind of go into that humane side of it or animal husbandry side of it, what separates someone who is a good animal husband or does good animal husbandry as far as owning exotics versus someone who probably shouldn't own it?
Well, one thing that is very different about handling wildlife is that you cannot always provide that animal with the best level of medical care by, let's say normal veterinary standards. You can't always provide a sterile field to be able to perform a procedure, for example. There are often times where, I have captured an animal and I'm under a tree in the middle of 100-acre pasture and with my x-ray machine trying to clean a wound. I would love to bandage it and change the bandage twice a day. You can't, and so one thing that needs to be understood when you're discussing that is veterinary medicine and care, humane care, it doesn't look the same with wildlife as it does for like a small domestic animal. Just can't provide them the same type of care. Now, it doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you don't want to help, but there is a concept of loving an animal to death. And what I mean by that is some of these animals, the best thing you can do for them is just leave them alone and just let them heal. And that can be hard for some people. But, I had a situation where this individual brought in some piglets, some wild piglets, and they had killed the mom, not knowing that she had piglets, and they wanted to raise the piglets and whatnot. So they brought them in, and it was the second day. They hadn't eaten, hadn't drank water. And she's like, I'm giving them food and water. They won't eat or drink. What do I do? And I said, nothing. They're wild. You're not going to tame them down.
Right.
You have to let them go. Well, they're going to die. Oh, I can tell you for sure they're going to die if you leave them in the cage.
Right.
Right. So you just let them go. If you want to try and put them in your backyard and maybe they stay, maybe they don't, so be it. But, you can love a wild animal to death.
Yeah. So that's a tough one because, especially the animals that have higher value. Right. And so that's where I think people call in veterinarians like yourself. But yeah, being able to love an animal to death is a hard concept to, I don't know, I guess to swallow, right? Like everyone's like, well, I love it and I care about it and I want this. But
yeah, I want to help it. I want to do everything we can do.
Yeah. And at a certain point, you got to just let wildlife be wild. And so.
And sometimes, unfortunately, you do have to draw the line and say, okay, look, could we just leave it out in the field? Yes. That's not the humane thing to do.
Right.
We need to go ahead and make a humane decision here.
Right. And so kind of like also going into the aspect of humane things to do or wildlife practices, or with that is there could be a lot of things going on when you go to a capture job. So like with the capture job, or for people who may not know hearing this, is when you're either going to do some, or I guess let me hear your aspect and your definition of it, of when you're doing a capture job, what are the goals that you could do on a capture job? No matter if you're trying to rebuild your current website that sucks, or if you're starting from the ground up, Droptine Studios would love to give you a free estimate on what your new website build could be with us. Go to Droptine Studios today, and you can see other websites that we build for other clients. We look forward to talking to you soon about your new website.
Well, the most important thing on a capture job is that no human gets hurt. I know that human safety has been talked about before, but no human gets hurt, and then no animal gets hurt.
Right.
So those need to be the priorities, and everything else comes second to that, whether it's moving the animal or, trying to, participate in breeding management practices, or if you're hoof trimming or whatever, right? You don't want to harm an animal trying to help it.
Right.
So, and you don't want to harm an animal trying to further your own personal goals, whatever that might be.
Right.
And I get no one intentionally goes out there that I work with, at least, to try and intentionally inflict harm. I think sometimes it can be through ignorance, or sometimes through, accident. Sometimes things just happen. It just don't go your way. I get it. But yeah. So, I mean, to me, going out there and ensuring that nobody gets hurt, no animal gets hurt is number one. And then do you want me to kind of like walk through the capture?
Yeah, so let's kind of go through the before, because there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I think that is even one of the parts of showing that these ranch owners and the animal husbandry that they're doing is important.
Sure.
Because there is before, there's during the capture, and then there's after. And so can you kind of walk through of if you were to go to a catch job and you're going to do your work and what you're doing, can you walk through what your before process is? What are you doing to prep to go on a job like that?
Okay. And you want me to just talk about the veterinarian aspect of it?
Yeah. And then you can, so I would say that the veterinary side would be prominent, the most important, but then even if the ranch is having a prep as well.
Okay. Yeah. So for me personally, what I do to prep is I will review the species that I'm working with and review the different drug protocols. A lot of people, they approach problems, with a single tool. This hammer has to be the solution for everything. It's no, there are multiple tools that we can use to do this, and having a command of those resources helps you decide what the best tool is. And yeah, I'm referring to drugs in that case.
Right.
So I'll review the drugs that I'm going to use. I need to make sure that my batteries are charged. If I need flashlights, or if I need my drone, if I need the X-ray machine or ultrasound machine, checking batteries, making sure syringes are stocked, meds are stocked, that I have enough to get through the capture and account for misses, that I have darts, caps, gun, that it's all functional. So making sure that have masks, have oxygen.
Right. And then the proper amount of team too. There might be.
Yeah, exactly. Some of these animals are big.
Yeah.
Takes strong human beings to move them.
Right. Yeah. So even that is it's a whole process. And I think that's what my goal of asking that question was, is people just think I'm just going to show up, fling a dart, move on. And it's could you? Yeah. But should you? No.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of things you can do, and you can get by with those strategies, for a good amount of time. But if you want to get better, I'm not saying good, better, best, right? Or let me rephrase that. I'm speaking of good, better, best, right? Let's just improve. I'm not trying to put someone down if they are maybe not doing it how I do it.
Right.
Let's try and be better.
Right.
And as far as preparing the animals, like you were saying, so sometimes you can prepare the animals, sometimes you're not able to. Sometimes it's simply, hey, we need a helicopter. That's how you get them. You got to get a helicopter. You got to be able to dart them or net them from the air. And so sometimes that is the prep, is having the right helicopter team. having good pilots, good ground crew that can transport animals safely. So there are some things, if you want to get a little bit more technical, that I think are really good to do. So, for example, making sure that the animals have access to good, clean water before they're captured, and that they don't have a series of stressful days before capture. There are some supplements that you can put in their water to prepare them. For example, dimethylglycine is an example. You can put that in the water and helps them convert lactic acid better. It's a little bit of debate on that, but to me, I'm a believer. Helps them convert lactic acid a little better,
and it's not going to hurt.
No, it's a vitamin.
Yeah,
it's a vitamin. And so I can't remember if it's 16 or 15, vitamin B15, B16. It's one of those. But in some cases, it might even be appropriate to pre-medicate the animals with some tranquilizers or sedatives or anti-anxiety medications. There's thiamine that you can administer beforehand. So you can actually prep animals for capture.
Right.
Some.
Yeah. And if they're, like you said, accessible, right? Like if you have to go get a helicopter, you're not going to do a whole helicopter day just to prep them, because then they're stressed and they got
you don't prep with a helicopter. You just catch. You just do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's the other side. Is it's a significantly different scenario going from a pen setting to work on animals to out on 2,000 acres, because again, different methods to do it. And so again, my whole point of doing this is there's so much care, time, money. Like the last one we were on, there was a catch crew, there was a vet, there was a helicopter, there was Droptine there was a family, there was all these people and a consultant. And all of this went into getting, some kudu cows, a kudu bull, and doing this whole thing. Well, that is coming out of the owner's pocket, right? And so that just shows enough that there is enough care for these animals, whether, good, bad, or indifferent. But like, it does take time, money, and preparation to do a job like this. You can't just go out there and do it.
Sure.
So, and then...
and it takes a lot of different fields of expertise.
Right. Yeah, like you said, you can't just go out there with one tool. It's like independent on the goal, right? Like if you just want to get them and move them, cool. Doesn't mean
even down to the people that haul the trailers. It might seem like, oh, this is just a guy and he just hauls a trailer. No, he's not.
Yeah.
Every single time his foot goes on the gas and on the brake, he's doing it right, so he doesn't hurt the animals. He's recognizing that there is or is not a problem in the trailer while he's hauling, because he can feel it while he's driving.
Right.
So, that's a skill set that could even get overlooked.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because everything that you do, if you use the best of the best of the best, and then you just put some 16-year-old in the truck driver seat, because again, an animal's not worth anything dead. So you need to have, in my opinion, the best of every situation if you care about these animals.
Sure.
And so is there anything else as far as after? Because I know that you mentioned, right? So we talked about before the prep, during, with everyone being there, being on their game, because they're still alive. And so, and then after, there's not really aftercare like you would, like you said, like with a cat or a dog or anything like that. But is there anything that can be done after with an animal, when an animal is released after being knocked down and worked on?
Sure. So that kind of depends on where the animal's coming from, where it's going to, if it was moved. During the capture, you can, if that animal's going through a particularly stressful event, you can administer things to try and help it. So for, there's multiple vitamins that you can administer to try and pick it up. If you have any reason to believe that it could be mineral deficient, you can administer some minerals. And that's, different people feel different ways about that, because, ideally you wouldn't give us a mineral supplement unless it's deficient. Right. Mm-hmm. But you don't always know it's deficient.
Right.
You might suspect, or you might just want to give it a pick me up type of thing.
Right.
But
you can't really ask a kudu to come into the clinic.
Yeah. Let's do some bloods before, and let's see what we can do beforehand. Right. But so yeah, you can do that during the capture. Now, as far as after the capture, me personally, this applies to animals that are moving. I'm a huge fan of soft release. And I'm not the biggest fan of just opening the trailer gate and just letting them go. I want to know that animal is doing okay afterwards. And soft release doesn't need to be like a actually it shouldn't be like a little half acre pen. I mean, it should be a 10, 15, 20 acre area where you can put the animal in and it can rest, where it doesn't have to compete against other animals. It has easy access to food, easy access to water. And, and there are strategies that people employ to be able to release animals on big country. And, let's put water in the corners and we need to put food here. And so, all that could be avoided if you just put them in a soft release area.
Right.
Then you're not having to water 1,000 acre or put water on 1,000 acres. You could put water on 20 acres.
Right.
And then, what you could do is in the morning, you could go for a ride on your side-by-side and just look at them with your binos and make sure that everything's okay. And if it's not okay, you have easy access to them.
Right.
You can administer something in the food. You can administer something in the water. And if you absolutely had to, catch them again.
Right.
And another thing people, they neglect is, and again, I think it's unintentional in most cases, is they don't think about the health and safety of their herd. They're thinking more about the animal that they're bringing on the ranch. And I think that if you're bringing in a new animal on your ranch, you need to be concerned about what that animal's bringing with it. And you want to try and protect your herd from that. And a soft release helps accomplish that. And that's something, like I said, that's fairly straightforward to do after a capture.
Yeah. So what could they be bringing? Are you talking about disease or?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, that animal came from somewhere. It could have something.
Right.
It probably doesn't. Most of these animals are pretty healthy animals, but the idea is that if it does have something, that you're not going to be spreading it to your herd.
Right. And then because eventually if they're in the soft release pen, the goal would be to release them out to the large acre pasturage. And so is there a way to test for any of those diseases, or is it just
so if you're going to do that, you want to do that at time of capture.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
you're just going to go ahead and collect whatever you're going to collect at the time of capture.
And then how long does it take to get like results back?
Well, part of that depends on logistics, right? So if you ask me on a Friday afternoon,
right.
Well, now I gotta go through Friday afternoon, and then Saturday and Sunday I can send off Monday for it to arrive on Tuesday and get, and then they'll start the tests, right? So it gets skewed dramatically at the end of the week,
right?
Which, I don't have any control over. I don't control UPS or FedEx, and I don't control what the lab does.
Right.
I don't control what the lab does on the weekend. So I mean, if it's done in the morning, early on in the week, you can get quicker results.
Right.
Right. So let's just say somewhere generally 3 to 10 days, depending on how that ends up kind of shaking out.
Yeah. Which in reality isn't a long time for an animal to be in a soft release pen. Well,
in actuality, they should be in a soft release pen, typically somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 10 days, even up to 21 days, depending on multiple circumstances and if you have any evidence. But I'd say 2 weeks is a fairly reasonable time to just, excuse me, man, this cough is getting me. 2 weeks is a reasonable amount of time to just have them up and be able to monitor them frequently.
Yeah. And so when you say that, like, 10 to 21 days, is that because you have reference as far as like, oh, you'll be able to see if something is wrong, or where does that 10 to 21 days come from?
Yeah. So think about the different times that you have been on antibiotics. Is typically 1 to 2 weeks.
Right.
Right. So when you have a disease, and these diseases aren't I don't think that they were formed based on, our calendar to be 1 to 2 weeks. Right. But typically if you're just kind of saying, hey, if you have to treat something, about how long is it going to take to fix it? And a lot of times you can pretty much hit it somewhere in there in the 1 to 2 week range.
Right.
So there are specific things like, for example, this specific parasite, from the time that it's ingested until the time that it can have a baby and be re-ingested, that's 21 days. Right. So there are specific ones like that. But a lot of times if you see something, it will manifest within a week to 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other side, is if you're going to wait to get test results back, and then you can also control the water, right? Like if you're saying putting any antibiotics or anything like that in the water,
right,
it's only being consumed by one animal, because you can't control.
Yeah. Or, we treat animals as a herd. So whether it's one animal or 5 animals, it's the same, because we would treat the whole group as one animal.
Right. Yeah. Because that's the part, is like, you want to be able to control as much as you can, because once they're out there, there's almost no control.
Yeah, right.
And so, yeah.
Well, and I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been somewhere. Oh yeah, we bought kudu. Haven't seen them again. Oh, how many did you put out? We put out, whatever, 1.4. And oh yeah, and here, I see your male there. Where's the girls? I don't know. We let them go, and they just haven't seen them. They're probably just out there. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, they're out there now. If they're walking around or not, it's a different story.
Yeah. So me personally, man, if I were going to invest something like that, I would put it in soft release just so I could see it. And if there's something that can be done, and part of it's the knowledge too. Is that you can, what happened,
right?
And if something does go south, you can try and figure out why it went south and maybe do something different the next time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if people looked at it, right, like when they're buying an animal, they see it because the money's leaving their account. But once it's on the ranch, they just see it as an animal. Well, it still has a dollar value, and it still has stuff. And we want to share animal husbandry no matter the dollar amount of an animal. But when you go in, and if you're looking at that, like, I want to know where my assets are. So if I can see it and know that truly when it's released, it just financially to me makes sense. But
yeah.
So with that, going into like capture jobs, there's a lot of things that can go sideways, right? And so like we kind of talked about the good, the prep, everything along those. What are some like bad things that can happen during capture jobs?
Yeah, so I'll focus on the veterinary aspect of it and not really focus on people getting hurt, right? So I'll focus just on the veterinary side of it.
Yeah, humans not getting hurt, just so no one says anything. That's always the most important.
100%. Yep. So moving beyond that, because that's not my specific expertise. I tend to find myself in positions like where I get banged up, but it's okay. So focusing on the animals. So, man. A common one is getting overheated, where the animal runs too much, it runs too hard, and it's they're contracting their muscles, they're building up, or they're using energy, and those muscles generate heat, and their body temperature spikes, 105, 107, 109, and when that happens, think about it like this. So if someone were to ask you, is it worse to be too cold or to be too hot? Think about an egg. If you put an egg in the freezer, it is still an egg when you pull it out. If you put your egg on a pan and it only has to be a little bit above its normal temperature, it will cook and you cannot uncook it. It has changed. And so that is what happens when that animal is getting overheated. It is getting internally cooked and it cannot be uncooked. So the question is, can it survive and repair the damage that happened? And unfortunately, a lot of times the answer is no. If it does get really hot like that and it gets overworked and overstressed, then unfortunately, no. Now, one thing that a lot of people talk about a lot is capture myopathy. And I would like to help people not necessarily move away from that term, but to better characterize things. So capture myopathy, what is it specifically? What that is the animal uses its muscles so intensely that it causes those muscles to break down. Now, when that happens, a couple things get released. Potassium is the big one that ends up going to the heart and stopping the heart. Now, that's going to be an early phase death. A later phase death is, and I don't know why God did this, but there's a chemical in our muscles that is toxic. It's not the only one in our body that's toxic, but in this, let's say, for conversation's sake, that's this is what we're talking about right now. There's a chemical in our muscles that is toxic, and if our muscles break down and get released, that can kill us. Okay, so a later phase death from capture myopathy might be something like kidney disease, kidney failure, where that chemical gets released. It's called myoglobin, goes to the kidneys and ends up causing the kidneys to fail. Okay, so that is capture myopathy. Getting overheated is not capture myopathy. That is getting overheated.
And so are you saying people will have animals get overheated and call it capture myopathy?
Well, capture myopathy becomes kind of a catch-all term. So if you want a catch-all term, let's do this. Capture-related death. It was alive. We tried to capture it. It didn't go well. It died. That's a catch-all term, capture-related death. Now, if it is capture myopathy, that's fine. It can be that. Call it that. But now sometimes it's impossible to know. But I can tell you, if an animal comes to me and I check it and it has a temp of 109 and it's capture myopathy. No, it's not. It got overheated. Now, if an animal is laying down and ends up suffocating on its own saliva, that's not capture myopathy. It suffocated. If it regurgitates some of its rumen contents, because these animals are ruminants, they have a belly full of water and grass and leaves and twigs that they have worked as part of eating, work to gather as part of their diet. And if they are put in awkward positions, that will increase the likelihood of them regurgitating some of that fluid with grass and bacteria in it, and then they can then aspirate it or breathe it in, and that can cause a pneumonia. So that they could die a week after capture from what some people would call capture myopathy. No, it aspirated. So I'm not saying the animals don't die from capture myopathy. They do. I'm saying let's be more specific,
right?
And not use just a catch-all term to call all animals, or to name all death.
Yeah, so if someone's listening and they hear that, is there ways to test for how animals die or how they pass away?
The most important thing, if you want to try and dig into it, is to try and get a necropsy, which we call an autopsy in the human world, but it's a necropsy where we do a post-mortem exam on that animal. Now, I will admit, capture myopathy is extremely difficult to pinpoint, and the reason is because it gives you non-specific changes most of the time, especially when you have an animal that is healthy and it has an acute capture death where it's like, the muscles break down and it releases immense amounts of potassium and it just stops your heart. Like it's hard to look at that animal and know. There are cues, that as a vet, you can be trained to look for. But for example, anybody can open an animal and look at the lungs and see, hey, those things are green.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if that animal's head was sitting upright and it was fine, and then all of a sudden it's not fine and it was actively sedated, well, that's a pretty clear case for aspiration, for example, or suffocation. And so as far as a perfect way, no, there's not a perfect way to directly answer your question.
Yeah.
But paying attention is going to be the biggest thing. And, looking to make sure that animal is breathing and that its heart's beating is going to be a big way.
Right. Yeah. Cause I've seen polar opposites going on catch jobs and from personal standpoints and from filming on, cause I've been filming and people are just running around doing their jobs, being busy. And I'm like looking around going, there's 5 animals sedated around us. We don't have 5 people looking for heartbeats. We don't have this. So I'll be filming. I'm like, okay, we got it. And I go over here and look at them or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's hard to see, but it's also were they properly trained? Do they know that they need to be looking for that? Do they just assume, oh, well, it's sedated, it's fine? And unfortunately, no, it's not. You need to have someone checking that. And even overheating. I know we talked about it last time. I mean, we've had, thank God, but 20 episodes since then. But in case no one's heard that one, how do you prevent an animal from overheating? Do you stick just a thermometer in, or how do you go about that?
Okay, so knowing if they're overheating, that's where the thermometer comes in. Preventing them from overheating is different. So the most important thing is don't chase them too much. Yeah, I mean, you got to know when to stop. That's one of the hardest things that to recognize is when can you keep pushing it, when can you keep going, and when to stop. And that's hard. So
there's
it's not something I can just simply explain. Right. It's something you have to live.
Well, especially when we're in Texas, it is hot all the time.
Yeah, capturing at the right time. Yeah, capture in the morning or capture on a cloudy day. Yeah. And, there were times I was on a ranch, and in general, people ask, well, what temperature do you cut off at? Around 82, 83 degrees or so.
Right.
But if I'm standing there and I feel the sun, I'm starting to get warm.
Right.
Like if I look up and it's noon, even if it's 75 degrees, right? Technically that doesn't fall in line with my 82, 83 degrees, but I can feel it. Like I feel the radiant heat.
Right.
I'm going to go and say, hey, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Well, and that's the thing that it seems, I don't want to say common sense because people may just not know, but it's like if you, like you said, if I'm standing here and I am hot, and as humans, we can sweat, we can get some of that heat out. These animals can't.
Right.
They retain everything.
Yeah.
And so just being able to know, hey, if I'm hot standing here, what if I ran 2 miles?
Yeah. Well, and not only that, what if you ran 2 miles at your absolute, at the absolute extreme, like beyond what you can consciously do, right? I'm saying, Billy's under the car and mommy's got to pick him up kind of strength ran.
Right. Yeah, because you don't know what that big bird in the sky is. Like, they don't know what a helicopter is. They don't know what a Polaris driving behind them or whatever it would be. But if you are just full out sprinting, you got to just, again, common sense, I would think, is like, man, that animal's probably a little too hot.
Yeah. And unfortunately, what ends up happening a lot of times is that animal gets overheated and all of a sudden it just gives up.
Yeah.
Like it's alert and it's awake and then all of a sudden it's not, and it's game over.
Yeah, because that was, like you mentioned with the clouds, is the last catch job we did. It was on Good Friday. And man, I even timed it. And it was just, like you said, you have everything prepared on paper and stuff goes wrong. Well, we didn't even start catching until an hour and a half after we got out there. But thank God it was a cooler, cloudy day.
Yeah. So
we were able to actually finish the job and do everything. But there's a lot of stuff like, because if that one thing of being able to find the animal, getting a shot on them, if you're going to do, he's coming on Thursday, but if you're going to get insurance on him, then you got to get eyes and all the paperwork done. And then once you have all that stuff done, then you can start your job. And then, if that takes an hour.
I'll be honest, man, I'm a chatty Cathy too. I like to show up and these guys are my friends.
Right.
Like they're fun to be with. It's cool people.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. But so yeah, sometimes you have to be a stickler and stick to the schedule to try and make sure you get on.
Yeah.
But some strategies that I'd like to talk about to try and cool an animal down.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to use alcohol, and there's nothing wrong with alcohol. I don't personally use alcohol because it's inconvenient. I don't want to have to carry it around. It's flammable, and I don't want to have to go through the extra effort. I try to make my setup compatible with water. And what I personally use, and it's nothing special, it's one of those leaf blowers, and I took the tip off, so I just have the core of a leaf blower, so I can carry it with me, and I get the animal wet and cool it off.
Yeah. Again, seems like common sense. How do you get, if you've ever been in the rain and the wind blows, it's cold.
Yeah, the evaporation cools you. You can do cold water enemas, providing shade, and having somebody stand over the animal so that they're the ones who are taking the radiant heat of the sun.
Right.
But honestly, like a lot of that stuff, it's better to avoid it.
Right.
It's better to try and set things up so that you are not in that situation.
Right. Yeah. Because, I want to ask two things going off of that, just for common knowledge. So I've heard it only once or twice, because I'm the same way, as like just use water. Why would someone use alcohol? Is there something specific to that?
Yes. So it evaporates quicker than water. And, there's chemical properties. And when I did Gen Chem, I could have explained all those properties better, right? So I'm not even going to say it because I know someone would like massacre my explanation.
Right.
But it has to do with how fast it evaporates and the temperature and pressures that it evaporates. So essentially, you don't need to have the air movement like you would need with water. And it can still cool them more efficiently. And
then I think, again, it seems like common sense, but in Texas, it's 82, 83 degrees by 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
But
so what does that mean? It means that you better be on site around 6:30 and ready to go by 7.
Right.
And sometimes you might only get an hour and a half or 2 hour capture. You might only get 1 or 2 opportunities, and that's it.
Right. And I think that's the other side of, as you mentioned before, loving animals to death is like, you want to do this. You also don't want to incur the cost of travel and bringing everyone out for an hour of work.
Sure.
But
yeah,
that's even the same thing with us, is now with doing what we're doing with taking pictures or video on a ranch. That's not going to harm the animal if we film them at noon. But again, everyone's like, well, let's go out and film and film and film. And I'm like, we can, but we probably won't use it because even the sun in our cameras is harmful. Like not harmful, like going to break the camera, but it's like we can't film because of heat waves. And so that's just another side that like me and Daniel or Grayson see is there's just certain points that like, man, you can't do your job efficiently in general.
Yeah.
With no matter what you're doing. But like, yeah, I think it's interesting because you want to be as efficient as possible. But I think that comes into the aspect of did you prep for the job to try to tie all this together?
Well, on my schedule, there's a lot of times where I will have availability to do something all afternoon.
Yep.
And, you know, but people want like, hey, when's the next time that you can come out here? Well, the only time we can do that is at the crack of dawn.
Right.
And even though I'm available 2 or 3 afternoons out of this, you know, this coming week, I'm booked all of the mornings, you know, and we're not going to go try and find this guy on a couple 100 acres in the middle of the night.
Right.
So yeah, that you're right. That has a big impact.
Yeah. Cause we had, I don't know if I mentioned that on some podcast or not, but I mentioned it in conversation before is I had a guy try to haggle on price, and that's fine. You know, if we can, we can, if we can't, we won't. But he was like, well, man, you know, I want y'all to come out and do this. And I want to sum it up, I want a discount. I was like, okay, well, I'll come film your whitetail in March. Well, they won't be ready to film in March. Like they just lost their antlers. Exactly. Like I only have 3 months to get your whitetail. It's not so much that I'm being selfish. I just only have so many days and I can only do it in the morning and evenings.
Everybody else only has those days.
Absolutely. And so it's just an aspect of like in this industry, when you're not in an AC room, like I'm sure your other clinics and stuff for dogs or cats or reptiles that people can bring in is like, because you can go work on a dog at noon in an AC room, but you can't do that on a sable cow at noon at 110 degrees in South Texas.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you know, when you dose these animals, especially with the medications that people use commonly, it compromises their ability to cope with stress and heat. And so something simple like you mentioned going and capturing a sable. Well, you don't only need to take into account what's going to happen that morning during the capture. You need to think about what that day is going to be like. And so there are some drug combinations that are bad drug combinations just because of the temperature it's going to be in the afternoon. Not that there's anything wrong with the drug. You know, there's going to be a cloudless day and it's going to be 110 and that animal's black.
Right. So that was going to be my next question is, because like we know, like either flying a drone or flying a plane, like even if it's, you know, 20, the wind is 20 miles an hour down here, well, up there, it's significantly more.
Might be, sure.
And so there's times where it's like, okay, well, like I'll get the questions like, well, how long can you fly your drone? Depends. Right. And so like there's certain scenarios that I can't just give a blanket statement to.
Yeah.
But that was going to be my question is like, is there certain drugs that work better or worse in the heat, in the cold? And then I know you're not a chemist, but like what's the compound difference with that? Or does it just do with heat? As summer approaches, deer are starting to grow out their antlers. So if you are looking to promote any of your antlered species animals, make sure you give Droptine Studios a call for all your media and marketing needs.
So I don't know that there's one necessarily that works better in the heat or the cold, as in like, oh, well, if the temperature's warm outside, the animal goes down smoother, or if the temperature's cold outside, they go down smoother. So not like that. However, combinations that contain medetomidine, which is the M in a lot of the combinations that people know, they compromise the animal's ability to regulate its own temperature. And so that is one thing that you need to take into account is that if it got medetomidine, whether it's an MK, BAM, any of the NOx, CAP, the various mixtures, MKB, if it got medetomidine, that animal's ability to regulate its temperature is compromised. And so it will be more susceptible to heat stress, whether it's in the trailer, whether it's in the field. And what can happen is that animal can, and this is kind of a word that we use, renarc, which is renarcotization, where it's that animal goes back under the influence of the medications. And so that's one possibility. And so maybe it decides that it's going to go take a nap under a tree, where let's say that you have a tree, at a certain point and the sun casting a shadow, and when that animal decides to take a nap, it's in the shadow. All of a sudden, as time goes on, it's no longer in the shadows. That sun moves, and now all of a sudden that animal is in direct heat. Well, it may be only 80 degrees, but if that animal stays on the ground napping, it might get 110 or 120 right where that animal is on the ground. And so that's something simple that you need to take into account. And that can happen with any drugs. But for me personally, if I'm worried about temperature, I'm personally going to use an opiate-based protocol using thiofentanil. Thiofentanil is an ultra-potent opiate, and it affects their ability to regulate their temperature less than a medetomidine-based protocol. But both can be effective. There's some where you just wouldn't use thiofentanil, like some species, you just wouldn't use thiofentanil. There's some species you just wouldn't use medetomidine, things like that, or would not use a medetomidine-based protocol. So, that's different than what you're asking. Yeah. But like, I personally would not go dart a sable at 10 in the morning when it's, 78 degrees, knowing that at noon it's going to be, mid 90s, and, with a medetomidine containing protocol, because I would be concerned that the animal is going to overheat. Right. Now, does it do well most of the time? Yes, it does well most of the time. Right. But unfortunately, there are times where they can get compromised.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is even if it's only, and I'm making the percentages up, Dr. Sam did not give me percentages, but I'm saying even if it's 5% of the time, like a low rate, but it's still that risk, right? Because overall, it's that time that's when it's important to have a vet on, is when the 5% or 10% or 1%, whatever it is, happens. You need someone with that expertise. It's kind of like insurance. You don't want to have insurance, but as soon as you get in a terrible car accident, you want to be covered. And just someone that's a ranch hand or whatever, they might not know what to do when that bad scenario happens.
Yeah. And unfortunately, even in that scenario, though I would like to, sound like, the it guy and the savior, fortunately, there's a lot of times when you find yourself in that scenario and nothing can be done. My answer, well, what can we do? Nothing. I got a call one time and they had captured this kudu cow, and she was there laying out, and he sent me this video, and she's laying out flat on her side, open mouth breathing, I know that was creepy, but open mouth breathing, tongue out. And he's like, hey, she's overheated. What do we do? I'm like, there is nothing. Like, you've already reversed that cow and she's still laying like that she's going to die. So sometimes the answer is nothing. And when you have, I guess the more valuable thing is to avoid that whole scenario. How did we get there? And try and break that down and discuss how can we improve on that, so that we don't even get that kudu cow laying down, unable to stand, that has been reversed with a temperature of 107, 108.
So mention with temperature in general, you mentioned it in our last one, to what I recall in our last podcast is what I'm saying, but what is the temperature? Because you're one of the only people I've heard that keeps the temperature inside the trailer rolling. Right? Like, because that's also important when they're being transported.
Yeah. So I keep it. I have a digital thermometer that I keep with me, and it sends alerts to my phone. I keep it in my backpack. So I keep my capture backpack with me, and my digital thermometer sends alerts to my phone in case it's getting too hot. So as far as temperatures go, ideally, you want to be hauling animals in the morning and get where you need to go, or you want to try and haul them overnight if you have to go a distance.
Right.
And so as far as exact temperatures, man, that can vary a lot, because, the sun is coming and hitting the roof of that trailer, heating that thing up to like 150 degrees. And if the inside of the trailer is still pleasant, and you have air movement, which is a big one, right? If you have air movement, then you can get away with a lot more.
Right.
There have been times where I've been on captures, and I went to one that comes to mind immediately, and I caught this kudu out of a field, and it was a fine capture. We got him in the trailer, and the hauler was getting ready to take off, and the hauler was kind of in a broker position, and the seller wanted to renegotiate because the bull was bigger than they anticipated. I don't care about that.
Right.
Right. I don't care if you want to renegotiate. Get in his truck and renegotiate on the road.
Right.
Don't sit here, like get on a phone call or get in his truck or whatever, but he cannot stay in the trailer with it not moving.
Right.
And see, the thing about these game trailers, they make them a certain way, okay? As in no gaps, no light. And if there's no light, there's no airflow.
Right.
And so the only way that they get airflow is if they're moving. They have to be moving. That's specifically the way they're designed. They have these little vents to be able to direct airflow in there. And so if that trailer is not moving, it's not getting air.
Yeah.
It is a literal sauna, a metal sauna in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like just drive around on the driveway, like get something to have airflow to them. But that's funny.
Now, one thing that you can do to get away with a little bit more is you can park the trailer under a tree. Some people will even run water on top of the trailer. They'll have like a sprinkler that they'll set on top of the trailer. But parking it under a tree is a huge, huge help.
Yeah. And I'll do a little plug for EGC trailers. They have a UV coated trailer top, but
shout out Joseph.
Yeah. You owe me $10 for that. But yeah. So with that, I mean, I think the resounding thing overall is there's just not a lot of wildlife veterinarians, right, that are willing to go handle large, or I don't even say large because even impala, but exotic wildlife in general. I think that the most common thing is I want to be a vet. I'm going to go work in a clinic. And we've touched on it before, but it's been, I don't know, a little over a year since we've had you on. So why aren't there more? Is it just universities not pushing it, or?
Well, when you have a need in an industry, it takes time for well, I'll just be more specific rather than trying to talk all philosophical and smart. I'll just be specific. This industry hasn't always been this big.
Right.
Okay. There hasn't always been a need. There hasn't always been people willing to do what it took. That's part of it. There has not been people with the knowledge to do it, to train people to do it, to handle these animals safely, for human and animal safety. And now that this industry is bigger, people are wondering, where are all the vets? Well, these vets are doing things to pay off their student loans. I mean, when I got out, a lot of people, I mean, I personally had around $120,000 in student loans. That was just me. Most people got out with close to $200,000 in student loans. And I'm pretty sure it's getting even higher now. I heard recently, from a prospective student that the tuition difference between A&M and Tech was $20,000. That's just a tuition difference, And so a lot of these students, they're getting out with $250,000, $300,000 in student loans, and they have to go do something to make money.
Right.
So they need to go and practice conventional medicine. They don't have time to build a book of business in order to be able to float that period of time between when they start and when they can actually support themselves and have enough clients to help. So a lot of this stuff is not written down, so it's hard to learn. And people don't want to, veterinarians don't want to go out and learn on your animals because they don't want to feel incompetent. They don't want to ruin their reputation. They don't want to get sued for negligence or, being unethical because they weren't prepared, didn't have the knowledge, et cetera, to be able to do what they had went out to do. People don't want to give inexperienced veterinarians the opportunity to do things. And so I think for the few of us that are involved in the industry, we owe it to the industry to help people get in.
Right.
And it's a little bit scary when you think, okay, like, you know, I went and fought for my knowledge. Like, I went and earned it and sacrificed time and effort and memories and health, like spiritual health, mental health, physical health. And I didn't go to birthdays. I didn't go to weddings, you know, so that I could know what I know. And so, you know, I don't want to just freely give that knowledge away and belittle my sacrifice, and you know, kind of let someone just have all of this information that I worked for. But at the same time, you know, so that's kind of on one side. But at the same time, I feel like, no, like the industry needs it. It is better for the industry that we have more people in it. And so I personally am taking on students, and I already am booked out more than half of the year just in students coming and working with me to train and try and help. I have helped students get into college, so that have these aspirations. You know, when they're in college, they still reach out to me and they'll come do rotations with me. And, you know, I don't just have an open, you know, book on rotations. Like I want people who are genuinely interested in this kind of stuff, who are going to go out and do it. And, you know, I don't know exactly what the future of that looks like. I mean, I have some thoughts, you know, I have thought about doing some sort of partnership. I've talked to prominent leaders, and, you know, I'm not ready to disclose all of that yet, but I have spoken with some prominent individuals in this space to try and figure out a way where we can have a path for young veterinarians to get in and do this kind of work, help build credibility, and create a network where we can collaborate together. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the other part, like, because how long were you in, like, from beginning to end in school?
So 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of vet school. And I took 2 courses on capture. They were both taught by Dr. Walt Cook. So he helped mentor me. And then Dr. Alice Blue also helped expose me to this type of information. And as a matter of fact, my very first job that I ever got to participate in, like, you know, after I graduated, was with Dr. Cook doing a deer job.
Oh, cool.
And so, so yeah, that was 4 years. I know I kind of got on a tangent there. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of vet school. And as far as doing this kind of work, I've been a veterinarian for close to 9 years now. And it took me a long time. My dad opened a practice in 1980. I opened up a second practice in 2018. I owned and operated that, and you know, grew that, and then eventually we started getting you know, a team in there to help run it, and we got more doctors, and so eventually I started focusing more on what made me happy. So I'm still part of that. Where I still work with that with our group, but I focus more on what brings joy to my life.
Right.
And that took me to wildlife.
Yeah. And that was my point of asking, is like, because now that it's, like you said, become cool or that's what I said, but that it's gotten larger of an industry, there might be some high school kid listening to this, but he's still 8 years out.
Yeah.
And who knows? Only God knows what this industry is going to be like in 8 years.
Yeah.
And so, but even someone who's now going into their doctoral program, they still got a while.
Yeah, of course.
They still got a long time before they can actually go out and practice or get a job doing it.
But see, the thing that so many people discount is loving the animals. And I'm not talking about, you know, this like weird, you know, ethereal love. No, I'm saying have such a deep respect for the animals that you become competent. Get good. Learn about the animals. Learn what they need. Learn how to do this stuff. Surround yourself with people that are passionate about it, that are doing what you want to do. And even if they're not doing what you want to do, maybe they're 1 or 2 people away. Because this whole industry, I mean, I called you the other day. I've never met Kellen ever, but I had a vet student that I work with that I've been helping through the process. He wanted to connect with him. So I knew you had met him. I said, hey, Austin, I want to connect someone with him. So this whole industry is pretty much one person away from everyone else.
Right. Yeah. And so if you want to be a sponsor of the podcast, like Callan was, feel free to go to droptinestudios.com/podcast. But no, so I had to put a little plug in there for that. But yeah, it's amazing. And that's what I've really enjoyed doing this. And one thing I want to encourage you with is you reached out to me saying you want to be on the podcast. And I truly accredit you to a huge success of our podcast. Because
thank you.
You introduced me to so many people inadvertently of you just sharing it, right? And I'm a firm believer, and I actually heard this in a Bible class at DBU, is the only thing better than working is networking. And so because they were like referring to Paul when he was like, well, I don't know you, but you know him and I know him, so you should trust me now. It's like networking's been around forever. And so the aspect of having one person introduce one person to someone else will forever change. Like yesterday, I had like a day full of meetings, and I'm so thankful that we're busy, but I hate meetings, right? I started this company to create media and everything, but I had like 7 meetings, and then I had another girl reach out, but she's seen us at trade shows. She's seen us do all this stuff. And she was just like, can I pick your brain for 30 minutes? But I was like, absolutely. Like, I have this time slot, but I would love to talk to you about it. I didn't love to have my meetings, but I found joy in helping her gain access and introduce her to people, sent contacts to help her fix with what she was doing. And that's what we find joy in doing. But
well, and so many people that make sacrifices for what they do want to share that. They want to help people, but before they go and let you in their inner circle, they want to know that you value what they're doing. And I'm not, like, to me, for example, and I know, I don't know, this might get some hate, but, I'll say it anyway, because it's how I feel. If I'm going to bring you on to share all of the knowledge that I have sacrificed for, that is my payment to you. And so many people want to come and they want to get paid to be an intern. And I don't mind paying someone to be an intern, but I'm not going to let you in my inner circle if that is what you want. I will hire you and I will help you flourish and I will help you fulfill your dreams, but I'm not going to bring you into my dreams.
Well, man, when you said that struck a chord with me, because we've had a lot of people just inquire. We don't have job openings, and I think it might attest to what we're doing on social media. We're doing cool stuff. Like, this is fun. We get to see a lot of cool animals. We get to meet a lot of cool people. But man, when you were talking about, Daniel's been around the longest for 5 or 6 years, but it was just in the aspect of like, man, I have hustled to be here. I've given up time with my wife, with my kids. I put off having kids, doing this. Everything you said, I super resonated with, and I held and I white knuckled that for so long. And I'll have people call and I just go, well, what's your goal? Do you want to start your own company or do this? Because I am not in the business of training my competitors, because I have a lot of future aspirations that I want to do. So if you want to help me build that, I'd love to have you on the team.
Well, and at the same time, I think that it is a beautiful thing for people to have an abundance mentality rather than having a more limited mentality or a finite mentality. So by abundance, I'll define what I mean. I believe that there is enough in this world that we can all have what we want.
Absolutely.
And I don't need to go without for you to have. And I believe that both of us can have, and we can help each other have what we want. And so that is ultimately where I think, helping these young veterinarians get in this industry is going to have to stem from, is that there's enough out there. And if we choose to work together, that's wonderful. And if not, then I wish you the best. But to going back to your point, it's hard to separate that. And let's be honest, it's a little bit of selfishness.
Oh, for sure.
It's hard to separate that, to say like, I'm going to give of myself and give of what I've earned, the knowledge that I've earned to somebody that is just going to intentionally take from me or something like that. And so, but man, it's hard, I guess, you kind of take more of like a ethical or spiritual approach to that. It's hard to be the judge of that and to know what somebody's true intentions are.
Right.
And I think for somebody looking to get into this, that's where you have to showcase your love.
Right.
And you have to showcase, how much you value these things and the people in the industry, and to make yourself available and to go and earn and learn. And I'm not trying to pretend like I'm some gatekeeper or that, any of the other individuals involved in this industry are gatekeepers. Like, oh, you got to have our approval if you want to get in. No, absolutely not. I mean, you could start from the ground up all by yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I would respect the heck out of it.
Right.
But, but there are individuals coming out of vet school very soon that I know personally, that I know they're going to be wonderful vets. They're going to be in the wildlife industry. They're going to be wonderful. And will we work together? I don't know. Whether we do or not doesn't matter to me. I know that they're going to be good people. And would it make me happy if we did? Sure. But so I think the future looks bright, but it is going to take some time for for veterinarians to come out and to start to fill this void.
Right. So I know we're on a little bit of a time restraint today, so we've got a couple minutes left. So I'll leave you with two things, and then I'm going to throw in a wild card at the end when you finish with those two.
Okay.
But what would you say to anyone listening who wants to get into this industry as a vet student or someone who's already a vet? And two, what would you recommend that any rancher or ranch hand or anybody would take from this podcast?
Okay. So
sorry, I should ask one at a time, but I didn't want to forget.
Okay. So first was the
what would
student?
you say to the student veterinarian?
Okay, say to the student veterinarian, get involved, get connected with people that are doing this type of work. And you're welcome to get connected with me. You're welcome to get connected with Austin. There are a lot of other really good people that are doing this kind of work, and you can help out at the ranches. If you want to be on that side, you can help out with capture teams. If you want to be on that side, I mean, Wildlife Partners always has opportunities to help and learn. I know Brian is really good at getting people involved. He loves, educating people. And there are a lot of smaller guys that are kind of doing their own thing. You go to EWA. Get involved, become a member in EWA, buy a membership and show up.
I think students are free.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, I think.
Well,
we'll have to look. If not, I'll tell Ken we need to get one.
For that.
Yeah.
But, excuse me. Sorry about that.
You're good.
So, go to the Exotic Wildlife Association meetings, participate in what they're doing, meet people there. I guarantee, I know it feels weird. If you just go to an Exotic Wildlife Association meeting and you just sit next to anybody there and just talk to them and say, hey, I'm a student. I'm working on going to vet school. I want to get into what? Get over here. Let's come. Hey, come. Have you ever met this guy? Have you ever met this guy? Hey, look. And odds are you're going to meet me. You're going to meet Brittany. You're going to meet Pat. You're going to meet David. Right. And you're going to get to know the different teams out there. You're going to get to meet helicopter pilots and ground capture crews and ranch owners. And so it's literally that simple. Just become an EWA member. They will help you. They want you there. Right. They want to support you. They want to connect you. Right. Well, I say we.
Everybody.
Right. I'm a member, a lifetime member, and you're a member, right? We want to connect you. If you do nothing else, do that. Just show up to an EWA meeting.
Right. Well, and that's how we met. Yes, we met through social media. I think everyone. All right. So Daniel, I met through his sister. And again, I'll get to the end of it because we got to leave. But Rachel, Grayson, Quinn, Chance, we met through LinkedIn. But still, all that was through social media. Everything was in person. We met at the Wildlife Partners at the Bevy.
Yeah.
It's just going and connecting and meeting people. Just show up.
Yeah. There's auctions and it's free to go. Wildlife Partners auctions coming up. Go.
Right.
Go and meet people. Go and meet people that are buying. Go and meet the teams that are there.
Right.
Their capture team is there. Go and meet Tad. he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's free to go and you get a free meal.
Yeah. So shout out Tad. He messaged me the other day saying he appreciated the podcast. So, but hey, Tad.
And then, so like I said, you just have to get involved, and no one can do that for you, because you have to build your own reputation. You have to earn your own way. I can introduce you to somebody, but no one is going to call you to come and capture their Cape Buffalo or their bongo or their big breeder kudu or their female kudu or their sable or their impala. No one is going to call you if they don't know you.
Right. They
have to know you. Go and meet them and connect with people.
Right. Now, to tie that into the ranch owners.
Yes.
So what would you say to the ranch owners? I mean, earlier we talked about prepping, capturing, what to do, what not to do, what can go good, bad. If they only cut this little last 2-3 minute segment, what would you hope they take away from this? All right. I'm letting you know this is an ad. I'm also letting you know that we are actively looking for sponsors. Yes, if you become a sponsor, you will be promoted on our e-blasts, our social media, and our website, and so much more. But we are asking for support because this podcast is time consuming. Scheduling people, editing it, running, coming up with the questions, and all that it goes into this. But we are trying to benefit our industry. So if you want to be a sponsor and get more eyeballs on your business, or if you just want to help Droptine Studios continue to put stuff out for our industry, please consider being a sponsor. Go to droptinstudios.com/podcast and you'll see all of our pre-made packages that you could be a sponsor for. Thank you.
Okay. 2 things. One is there are a lot of large animal veterinarians out there that have a lot of knowledge that can be very helpful. And I'm not just trying to, push business away from me or anything, but they have a lot of knowledge. They just don't know that the knowledge they have applies to the work that we do. Mm-hmm. And so we have to, as an owner, I highly recommend trying to help cultivate a veterinarian's confidence in working with these animals to realize, like, you treat them similar to a cow, you treat them similar to a goat or a sheep, mm-hmm. And so they have a lot of knowledge that can be helpful. There are a lot of eager people out there, but if you make them feel stupid because they don't know what an addex is, or they don't know what a black buck looks like, or whatever, they don't know the exact combination to immobilize a sable bull or whatever. Like, if you make them feel stupid, they're not going to want to help you. They're going to be embarrassed. And I mean, you got to remember, these are people. They're human beings, and they want to be helpful. They want to do good things, and they have knowledge that they've worked for and earned. They just haven't quite made the connection on how applicable their knowledge is to the wildlife industry. So I think that would be very helpful. As far as just, one of the most important things that I think an owner can take away is work on recognizing when to stop. And work on recognizing when to stop. What I mean by that, I mean that there are times when things are not going how you want them to go. And, so for example, today I darted a mature female and an immature male, an infant male bongo, because we needed to move them out of where they were. And the owner asked me, so which one are you going to do first? I said, well, I'm going to dart the mama first. Once I know that she's under the influence, I'm going to dart the baby. And because I don't want to dart the mama and her not be under the influence, and then the baby's under the influence and I can't get to it,
right? Because
mama's protecting it or whatever. And she said, okay, well, if it's not going well, what are we going to do? We're going to open up the doors and just let them go.
Right.
Right. If I see that there's a problem, then I'm just going to dart mama with reversal, dart baby with reversal, and open the doors, and we're just going to walk away.
Yeah, skedaddle.
Yeah, we're not going to try and harm these animals or risk killing these animals just so that we can accomplish what we needed to accomplish.
Right.
And And so I'm not going to go into too many details on that topic, but like I said, the point that I'm getting at there is there was a distinct possibility where I would have traveled all the way. And it was a 2-hour flight for me. Hundreds of miles.
Right.
So that's about 300 and some odd miles. So I would have traveled almost 300 miles just to get there and spent my whole morning prepping for that one thing. And I was willing to not even accomplish it just so I didn't harm the animal. And so you have to be prepared to not get done what you want to get done if it's just not the right day, it's not the right temperature, it's not the right weather. The animals aren't behaving properly. The animals aren't taking the drug well. The team's not working well. Well, whatever it is, just try to recognize these things and just say, you know what, it's okay. And I'm not saying be mad, right? But just recognize that things are not going well. We just need to stop,
right?
And we'll walk away. We'll regroup. We'll try again.
Absolutely.
So that's something that I think could be very beneficial and could save people from a lot of heartache. The trailer full where 9 out of 10 are gone, and that's disastrous. Nobody likes to hear that. I don't want to think about what those animals went through. I don't want to think about what happened to that person's bank account. I don't want to think about what happened to the people's reputations that were involved, and I get one situation doesn't represent who someone is as a person, and I'm not saying that I'm going to judge someone for that, right? But there are a lot of indicators where you can recognize that things are not going well. Right. Now, sometimes you get thrown a complete curveball, and there's, you may not even recognize what you could have done different. And I've unfortunately been there, but recognizing when to stop is a good one.
Yeah, I guess it's like the old song, "Know when to hold them and know when to fold them."
Yes, absolutely. And, there's a business negotiation tactic where, like, don't go and threaten to walk away from a business deal if you're not willing to actually walk away. And, well, don't go into capture if you're not willing to just straight up not do it, and just completely walk away, to where you have everything prepped and you have everyone there. And for whatever reason, I'm not necessarily saying, bad vibes or whatever, I don't know if I believe in that kind of stuff. Right. But let's say, for example, that the temperature said it was going to heat up to 80 by 10 o'clock. So we know that we're going to have from 7 to 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, 3 hours. So we got to get everything done in 3 hours. At 9 o'clock, I'm feeling it. I'm not moving that much and I'm sweating. It's hot. Stop an hour early. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's not always just blow up the whole capture and don't do anything. No, it might be you plan on going till 10, or you planned on getting 10. You're cutting it short an hour early. You're cutting it short 5 or 6, before you intended on it. Don't just go and just got to fill the order, just got to make the this, make the that. It's better to just walk away, regroup, and try again another day.
All right, so the curveball I'm going to throw you real quick. It won't take long.
Let's see what you got.
So we've never done this before, but another podcast I've seen is he normally has his guests write down a question, not knowing who the next guest or when they're coming on.
Oh, okay.
So not knowing who it is, not knowing when they're coming on, what's a question you would ask our next podcast guest?
Oh, boy. How do you...
Sam, thank you for the question for the next guest. I know we've never done that before, so I think it'll be interesting. Maybe we'll do it on, keep people hooked for the next episode.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be interesting.
So, but thank you for coming again. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you making this a priority, and hopefully the viewers will continue to listen, but I think that won't be our last time. Hopefully next time we can do a panel or something.
Well, it's definitely not a one-way street. I appreciate the exposure, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and to have the things that I believe in and that are important to me spread to others.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for listening. As you've heard before, I've said we are trying to do our best to grow our subscriptions, our likes, our follows, our comments, everything we can do just to be able to have more people on and more time like Dr. Sam here. So if you wouldn't mind, follow, subscribe, do all the things, like push buttons. I don't care. And also thank you for commenting on all the podcast because I know you listen.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it's important that we support each other. I think it's important to get things out there. And I think one of the very simple things that one can do is just, hey, thanks. I appreciate it. Enjoyed this, Right. And so, yeah, I do make a point to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, because it really makes a difference. It sounds silly. I try to even go back and comment to everybody. But again, if you're listening to this and you made it all the way to the end, we appreciate you more than you know. And we hope that you have a great day. God bless.
Take care.